Peter from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Alex from Voodoo Gods. How's it going?
Very good. Thank you very much.
So before I ask you about the album, I have to ask you about yourself. How are you doing during these trying times?
Quite honestly, like everybody, I mean, we had to cancel a couple of shows. Our first European, actually, concert, we had to cancel it. And yeah, it's been pretty tough, but we decided with the band. I just started writing new songs. So, I'm actually sitting in the studio and recording new material to just kill time, We are like, now, if we're going to record the songs, we're going to be ahead like almost 1 year, But, better than doing nothing,
Yeah, it's definitely better than sitting around and doing nothing.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you have a new album coming out, The Divinity of Blood, out May 15th on Reaper Entertainment. How excited are you for this release to hit the airwaves?
Very excited. It took us almost like 3 years to release the album, and yeah, I'm really, really happy, because we did a lot of changes. We did like, I think 4 mixes altogether. So, there was a really very early, very 90-ish kind of like Scott Burns mix, which I loved, of course, but everybody told me like, look, you can't release it that way. And, we decided to release the vinyl with that mix because it's just too 90s, but you need to keep up a little with the sound. But I love that mix. And then I'm very excited, and the people, there will be a lot of surprises on that album. Now Victor joined us like two years ago, Victor Smolsky, and especially his guitar style brings a lot of new elements into Voodoo Gods, which, in my opinion, never existed in death metal. So that is quite exciting.
And, I totally agree. After listening to the album, that's exactly how I felt about it. This is not your regular death metal album.
It's not. It's definitely not. And you can hear the influences. Like I listen to a lot of bands like Rhapsody, Halloween, Yngwie Malmsteen, Stratovarius, and all these power metal things, and you can hear it the way I write songs. There's a lot of power metal riffs actually. And most death metal bands, they play on the downbeat on the drums. I use a lot of upbeat, which makes the music kind of happy sounding. So the guys are not always happy, especially guys like Hero or Seth. They're like really committed death metal guys. So it's great. I think it's a great mixture. To mix with death metal, because it's still authentic and it's real, it's a real thing.
Yeah, in my opinion, the album really expands on the sound of death metal. It's not really set in the boundaries of the genre. I felt like you guys, specifically from a guitar perspective, really pushed the boundaries of the sound and went a little bit outside of that, of those walls of death metal, which allowed the record to be a lot more dynamic and have a it's almost like a refreshed take on how death metal could sound in the new era.
Yeah. Look, the thing is, when you have so many musicians, everybody was like, oh yeah, like the main focus, I have to tell you, when I put Voodoo Gods together, it was never about to have, people ex Manowar, ex that, ex Cannibal Corpse. I mean, not ex Cannibal Corpse, but like, like name dropping kind of thing, For me, it was really important when I put the band together, first of all, to have friends. So, we are already all friends. So that was a really important thing for me. And then to have capable musicians, which are able to play pretty much everything, whatever is in my head, these guys can actually do it. And that was really important to fulfill that kind of commitment to expand, like you say, that type of sound to death metal, And it's really good if you have this type of musicians in the band, That really works out very good.
Which makes me wonder, do you consider the band a group of friends or a super group of friends?
It's really a group of friends. No, we've been knowing each other like for many years. You know, I used to work for Vader, so I met Hero like much more like 96, 97 already. So, you know, and George, I know since I lived in Tampa. So I met him already, I think also like in 95, 90, just when he joined the band, actually, I met him. So um, it's really, we're a bunch of friends, you know, and Seth and me anyway started the band together with Tony Norman back in the days. And that happened because I was living with the guys from Monstrosity in Tampa, you know. So we lived all together, and back in the days we were called Shrunken Head. And Tony, me, were sitting together. We were just playing drums and guitar, just writing some songs. And Gene from Angel Corps showed up. You know, Tampa is a small community, at least, you know, with the musicians. And he showed up and he gave us a Centurion CD. And he said, I just signed these guys here. You know, he had a small label and he did the distribution for Centurion over in at least in Tampa, in that area. And we were shocked when we heard the vocals from Seth on that vocals. Where I was like, man, we need to get this guy. And the funny part, I read his name and I said, Seth Vanderbilt. I was like, that's my friend. He plays fucking drums, you know, in Severe Torture. I didn't had a clue that this guy is actually a singer. So that was really funny because I knew him, you know, we drummers, we stick together. So I knew that guy also like for many years, and was really easy to get in touch with him and just say, hey, you want to do a new band with me and Tony? So that is how we started, you know. And since I was in Tampa, you know, I needed like another vocalist because in extreme metal, you can hear some bands, they try to do the really aggressive growling and the black metalish kind of like screams. Mm-hmm. But not everybody is really capable of doing it, you know. And not only as a musician, the fans, I think, can hear it too if you try hard, but you're not, you know, you're not able to do it. So it was really easy decision to say I need two vocalists, you know. So Seth is doing the really aggressive parts, and George is doing the thing, you know, with the low typical death metal thing, you know. And then since we're quite melodic, I need also to have a guy who's flexible with a little more non-death metal vocals, let's say, you know. And Seth was the number one choice, and luckily he's still with us, and I'm happy that you like the material. I'm really glad.
Oh yeah, you know? I thought the album was phenomenal, and there's a couple of things we touched on the guitars, and going back a little bit more into the guitars, the song that to me set the tone for how this whole album was going to be was From Necromancy to Paraphilia. That stretch of guitars there in the middle, I don't know where you guys pulled that from, but that was absolutely mind-blowing. It was almost proggy, going in from the acoustic to the more classical style approach and back into the more acoustic with some Middle Eastern vibes. Would you agree with that? Like that middle stretch,
yeah,
you're a genius.
There was like some flamenco kind of thing.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a folky vibe to it.
Victor came up with that. The funny thing was, I told Victor, remember the band, of course I remember them, but Vital Remains?
Yeah.
They had an album back in the 90s called Forever Underground. And there was a song with an acoustic guitar solo. And I never heard something like that. Death metal with the acoustic guitar solo. And it touched me somehow. And I was always, all these years doing music, I was like, one day I will do a song with an acoustic solo, you know? And I just challenged Victor. I said, look, I do not want to hear an electric guitar on this part. So come up with an acoustic guitar solo. But he's so genius. So he just mixed it like a crescendo, you know, from acoustic into sitar. He did everything, of course, with the electric guitar, except the acoustic part. But that sitar, you know, Indian kind of sounding guitar, he did that with its electric guitar. It's just some effect he uses to play with it. But
that's even more impressive.
Yeah, it's even harder to play, exactly, because on the Anticipation album, when we were recording, you can see it on the documentary. There's a documentary when we were in the studio with Andy LaRocque, and the producer there, the co-producer Olof, he had a friend in Sweden, and he just called him and said, "Yeah, I have a sitar because we used a little, like some parts in it too." And Heroes, for me, one of the best guitar players, definitely in the death metal scene, and he can play every fucking thing. But even he had difficulties to tune it to do anything with it. It was a real sitar, but at the end, it made it still on the record, and you can hear it from like for a couple of seconds probably only. But that was, I think, the idea that I said, okay, it's really possible to do that acoustic thing. And now it's time. Once Victor, like had joined the band, I was like, now it's time, and you're right. That song pretty much has everything, in it.
Yeah, that song kind of gives you a glimpse of everything you're going to get throughout the rest of the record. It's almost like a nice. It comes as the second track on the album, but it gives you a little bit of a synopsis of what are you going to expect from this album. And I congratulate you guys on this record, because it would have been very easy for you guys to just go ahead and do another death metal album. But this album to me is a lot more than just death metal. The creativity behind it, on the side of the vocals, on the side of the guitars, how the drums interact with the guitars, the weaving of sound between those elements. This to me, it almost goes beyond being just a death metal record. I almost don't see it in the pure simple form of being just death metal, where all the tracks almost sound the same throughout a record. This album has a lot of creativity from a track by track basis.
It sounds also like you can hear like thrash metal influences.
Yeah,
you can hear
even
progressive and even classic metal.
Things. Exactly. I felt the same way. You can even hear some old school of British heavy metal, that old style in terms of the solos. Amazing.
Yeah. And I love just also the simple rock groove. You can hear it in when we start like probably the beginning riff of Rise of the Antichrist. It's very pure metal. I mean, it's not death metal at all. We had the same vibe on Chetevayo on the old album, and this is like pure heavy metal. You just have that really straight rock beat, with the amazing heavy metal sounding guitar, and the mixture with all these different guys, coming from a different area. Because I mean, another thing on this album I paid a lot of attention was I let Gene with his bass, which can do so much more things than we realized on the album before. We realized that guy can do so much more on his bass, and on this album we let him do his thing, and I left him even in the mix. You can hear him quite, he's right there, and you can hear what he's doing. And on the old album we mixed him a little in the background because we were like, okay, maybe it takes a little the heaviness, but it definitely doesn't, and it's great that he, for example, he never played in a death metal band before, and that was why he was our first choice, because I wanted some, my first choice, of course, was Steve DiGiorgio, because he can do pretty much also everything. But Steve recommended Gene. He said, look, guys, I don't have really the time to do those things. So that was back in the days even, and he said, like, he was in Ice of Earth back in the days. And then he hit the studio with Sebastian Bach. And he told me, look, I know this one guy. He's a fucking freak. But if you guys want a non-death metal guy who can play different things on the bass than just what the guitar is doing, he would be the right choice. And he gave us a contact, and we, back in the days, you still wrote letters. So we wrote him a letter, and we added like our demo in it. And he made like a remix on top of our demo with some bass ideas. And we were blown away. We were like, man, that guy's incredible. And we never seen his bass before. So once he sent us pictures of his bass, we knew why it sounded that incredible, So that was really cool.
Yeah, he definitely adds, in my opinion, not only a little bit of grooviness to the sound, but also a little bit of darkness to the sound. He's able to bring both of those elements, and you guys didn't hide it at all. This was an album where you really gave them a chance to shine on several tracks.
Yeah, and the way he plays the bass, Did you notice he calls them the ancient tones, but it has a little this Oriental kind of thing, you know, this Oriental vibe, and I think it fits perfectly with the extreme aggressive death metal, you know. It's just perfect. It's a perfect symbiosis of all elements and just the right combination to still be heavy, you know. And,
yeah, you don't want to take that away for sure.
No, most definitely not. You know, and songs still have to work live, of course. So,
was this a difficult album for you guys to put together, considering how spread apart everyone is, all the different elements that the sound of the record has, the guitars, all the different approach, the bass? Did you find this album to be difficult, or
no, not at all. First of all, these guys can pretty much do everything, you know. But more important, Andy LaRocque helped us a lot. He knows exactly how we want to sound and what we're looking for. So him as a producer, he, over the years we became friends. So he became also more like a mentor for the band. And I'm pretty sure we would never do a record without him, you know. So he also added a solo. You can hear him on the album, on the Absolute Necessity, on that song. You can hear that's his solo actually playing. And it wasn't really difficult. We have a certain routine, you know. I start with the drums, and then Hero joins me to learn the songs, because I can only show him the songs on the piano. I cannot play guitar, so I show him the songs on the piano or with my mouth. So he's one of the only guitar players. Tony Norman was the same, where I can really do something like that with my mouth, and he actually picks it up straight away and knows exactly what I mean, you know. So once he joins me and learns the songs, we put down a demo together on top of the drums, because since I have the song already completely in my head, I mostly record the whole the whole song already completely in drums. So I show him, you know, like, okay, here you play this, here's da 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 da, like that, and blah, and we work out like a demo version, and then he goes home to practice it, so he can record the full thing, you know. And after 2 weeks or so, he gets back to me, and then we record all his parts, and we do an extra recording for Gene, because for Gene is really, since he's not like coming from death metal, it's really hard to hear everything, you know, what the guitar is doing. So we have to do like an extra demo, so he really hears how you know. And sometimes we even send him scales and tabulars, and just to make sure he understands what the guitar is actually doing, because for him it's really hard with his bass to grasp that death metal thing, you know. And he needs I would say he needs the longest time, and mostly we do it that way. Once we finish his demos, we send them right away to him, and after that we do it we just wait. He sends us one track after another, and in the meantime we already record all the vocals with Seth and George. And then when I have the drums and guitars, I get in touch with Victor, and Victor's also more busy than Hero, so I just sit down with him and tell him, look, I know already where the spots are, but I tell him, I think here is here. Sometimes he corrects me or says, look, I don't think so, and he has quite some freedom there, but mostly I don't need to tell him what to do, you know. I just tell him the type I want to have, the solo. I love Yngwie Malmsteen. I love classic music scales. So I tell him sometimes, I want some Malmsteen thing here, or here you have to go with the guitar and things like that. And he's a genius. I mean, he reads music. He even on the piano, when I show him some ideas I want as melody, he knows straight away what to do, you know. So he's totally professional, and the best thing what could happen to us, you know. Plus, he lives much closer than the other guys. He's only 2 hours by car from my house, so from my studio actually, because at the moment I'm moving to Switzerland, but now with the corona, I'm still here. Luckily, I'm here because my recording studio is here, so that's pretty cool, you know. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
So with the album coming out on Reaper Entertainment on May 15th, it's just around the corner. Time is going to fly. What plans do you guys have? Because with the whole Corona situation, you can't really play shows. You can't, I mean, you're really limited on how much you can do. And with everybody being spread around, like, do you guys have a plan in order to get the album out there and get people listening to the album as much as possible, considering that obviously you're not going to be able to play in front of fans?
What happened? We just signed an agreement, let's say more, with a booking agency. So they want us to go out there, and we had, before the Corona thing happened, we had already like 6 shows booked. And one of the first things, since we never played here, we were like, okay, our first European show, we have to tape it. So we set up the whole rehearsing for the festival season and everything, like for 6 days in one location. And on the 7th day, we do a live recording. So fans and promoters will know how we sound live, because like I said, in Europe, we never played in Europe before. So we were like, okay, to even get the spot on the festival, we need to do that, you know. And now we were like, okay, if it's not possible, because of the Corona, to do the following shows, because the promoters here, they were quite supportive, and the Stage Cult is the booking agency. They told us, yeah, you know, once you guys did that live show, you know, why not play, you know, in 10 cities at least, or you know, and by that time it was just 5, but they wanted to add more, but it was also a little problem with the schedule, you know. So I'm very sure I will force everybody, if it's not possible, to do that live recording. If not, we will do it just like a video, you know, just the band with intro and everything, with no audience, and we will just do like, you know, like the Chili Peppers in the Abbey Roads, you know, just Voodoo Gods live, and we will just record it, you know, just for us and for the promoters, and so people will see what's all about, you know, because it's quite hard. And of course, I would love if we can do it and then do another additional shows. That would be perfect, you know. But I don't know how the situation is, and quite honestly, I don't want to know even, you know. For me, it's just important to focus on those things which I can realize or do the best, you know. So
focus on what you can control.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you very much for your time today. I know you have a super busy schedule today. And once again, I want to congratulate you and all the guys in the band for this amazing record. You guys really blew me away with how dynamic, how much big the sound is on this record. Incredible guitar playing, drums, bass, everything. The vocals, I really love the dynamic between the 2 vocalists. This album is really magnificent. It really goes outside of the spectrum of the traditional, let's call it that way, death metal, and it adds a different layer to what death metal could definitely sound like.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Take care.
Yeah. Cheers, man. And be safe out there, you and your family, man. I hope you guys are safe and sound, please.
Yeah, you too. Stay safe, and hope to see you guys on the road soon.
Most definitely. Cheers.